Welcome to our deep dive into this week's Observer Group
Yeah,
newspapers.
lots to talk about.
We're going to be looking at some really interesting election results,
Hmm.
the passing of a music legend,
Right.
the Dodgers World Series celebration,
Big one.
updates on the ACA marketplace,
Okay.
and even a look at how California is handling its water situation,
Yeah.
including the fact that some folks are getting their drinking water trucked in twice a month.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big issue,
No,
especially with everything else going on.
yeah, and it's interesting how these stories all tie into bigger things that are happening,
That's
like
true.
representation and legacy and community
Yeah.
and all the challenges California is facing right now.
It really is a snapshot of what's on people's minds.
So let's get into it, starting with those election results.
Okay.
Black candidates had a huge impact on November 5th,
Yeah,
potentially changing the face of California politics.
they did. It looks like there could be a power shift within the California Legislative Black Caucus.
The CLBC.
Right. They'll probably keep their 12 members, but the
Mhm.
makeup could change a lot,
How so?
going from 10 assembly members and 2 senators
Mm-hmm.
to maybe 9 assembly members and 3 senators.
Wow, that's a pretty big change.
Yeah, it is.
California politics is getting shaken up.
For sure. And there's that gender balance shift, too.
Right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, the caucus could go from an even split 6 women and 6 men
Hmm.
to 9 women and 3 men.
So that's a majority of women.
Exactly. A realignment of power within the CLBC.
Okay. And how do you think that's going to affect their agenda?
Oh, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to see how that plays out.
So who are these new power players we should be looking out for?
Well, in Congress, it looks like Latifah Simon
Right.
will be taking over Barbara Lee's seat in District 12.
Mm-hmm.
That's in Oakland.
Uh-huh.
And Sidney Kamlager's got her spot
Yeah.
in LA's District 37. And Maxine Waters is still strong
Right.
in District 43, also in LA.
Are we seeing similar trends in the state legislature?
We are Assemblymember Keila Weber
Mm-hmm.
is ahead in the race for a state Senate seat
Okay.
in San Diego's District 39, and Laura Richardson
Okay.
looks like she'll win in District 35,
Mhm.
covering Inglewood.
Right.
The seat's open because Senator Stephen Bradford is termed out.
What about the assembly? Are there a lot of changes happening there too?
Yeah, we've got 9 black candidates in the lead for assembly seats.
Wow.
A real mix of experience levels there,
Okay.
which always makes things interesting.
Right.
So we're looking at Lori Wilson in District 11,
Mm-hmm.
Rhodesia Ransom in District 13, Mia Bonta in District 18,
Okay.
Isaac Bryan in District 55, Sade Elowary in District 57,
Mm-hmm.
Corey Jackson in District 60,
Okay.
Tina McKinner in District 61, Mike Gibson in District 65,
Right.
and Lashai Sharp Collins in District 79.
It's hard to keep up with all that.
I know, right?
But what about changes at the local level? What's happening there?
Well, keep an eye on Kevin McCarty in Sacramento.
Oh.
He's leading in the race for mayor.
So he'd be Sacramento's second black mayor.
That's right. And in Stockton,
Mm-hmm.
Jason Lee,
Jason Lee.
the Hollywood entertainer.
No way.
Yeah, looks like he's on track to win a city council seat.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's a story in itself.
It's great to see all these black candidates
Mm,
stepping up and potentially changing the political landscape.
it is.
It really shows how representation and demographics are evolving in California.
Absolutely.
But these are just the initial results, right?
Right. Preliminary stuff.
The final certification isn't until
December 13th.
December 13th, so things could still change.
They could, but the trends definitely show.
Yeah.
We're heading towards a more diverse government in California.
And speaking of influential figures,
Mm-hmm.
the music world lost a true icon,
Yes.
Quincy Jones. He passed away at 91.
What a loss.
It's hard to grasp just how much of an impact he had.
It really is. His career was so long,
Yeah.
and he was so influential in music and culture.
And he didn't just produce some of the biggest albums ever.
Right, like Michael Jackson's Thriller and Bad.
Right. Those are the ones I know best.
Yeah, classics.
But he fundamentally changed genres,
He did.
from jazz to hip hop, and he was always pushing boundaries.
And uplifting black artists all along the way.
So it sounds like I'm really just scratching the surface here.
Quincy Jones is so much more than just those albums.
Where should we even start with all he accomplished?
Well, picture this. Quincy Jones started out as a jazz trumpeter,
Okay.
arranging for big bands like Count Basie,
What?
and then he moved into composing scores for movies,
Really?
like The Pawnbroker, bringing his talent to the big screen.
He was so versatile.
He was, and then years later,
Mm-hmm.
he composed the music for The Color Purple.
The color purple. I had no idea.
Yeah, going from jazz to soul effortlessly
Wow.
and showcasing his mastery of so many musical influences.
So he really did do it all.
He did, and let's not forget those iconic TV themes.
Like,
Sanford and Son Ironside. He brought black music into people's homes,
that's true.
influencing a whole generation of viewers.
So he was constantly innovating.
Constantly never afraid to experiment or push the boundaries of music.
I bet he won tons of awards.
Oh yeah, 28 Grammys
Wow.
from 80 nominations.
80.
It's a record only a few artists have ever beat.
That's incredible. But his impact goes beyond awards.
It does think of this work on We Are the World.
Okay.
He brought together 40 of the biggest music stars.
For the charity single.
Yeah, raising awareness and money for famine relief in Africa.
That's amazing.
That's the kind of visionary leader he was.
It's incredible what he did in his lifetime.
He is.
What were his early years like?
Well, his story is really about resilience and following your passion.
Okay.
He was born in Chicago in 1933
Mm-hmm.
and faced a lot of challenges growing up.
What kind of challenges?
Well, his mom struggled with schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
So he was mainly raised by his dad,
Okay.
who was a carpenter.
Yeah.
They moved to Seattle when he was young,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where his musical journey began.
Sounds like he was a prodigy.
He was but 15. He was playing trumpet in Lionel Hampton's band.
15.
Yeah, talk about an early start.
That's amazing.
And it launched him into a world of jazz legends. Like Dizzy Gillespie
Yeah.
and Ray Charles,
Wow.
who became his lifelong friend and collaborator.
So from playing in jazz bands to producing global pop stars,
Yeah.
he did it all.
He really did.
His legacy will keep inspiring people,
It will.
musicians and music lovers for generations to come.
For sure.
Now let's talk about a team that's building their own legacy right here in LA.
Let's do it.
The Dodgers.
Okay.
LA is still buzzing from their World Series win
Yeah.
against the New York Yankees last week.
Against the Yankees, it's their second World Series title in 5 years.
Wow.
And the energy at that victory parade was electric.
The whole city must have been decked out in Dodger blue.
It was. Were you there?
I wasn't, but I heard there were some great moments and quotes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Catcher Austin Barnes. Who has more championships in the 2020s than us?
Ah,
Absolutely nobody.
I love it. What about Keith Hernandez?
Oh, he was great. He gave a shout out to Ice Cube
Oh,
for his performance, and then he threw some shade at Fat Joe.
Fat Joe.
Yeah, he performed at Yankee Stadium.
I did see that.
And Keek said,
Yeah.
he used to be fat, but he's not fat anymore.
Yeah.
After that performance, we'd already won.
That's classic Cake, always the jokester.
He is. What about Shohei Ohtani? Did you hear?
What about him?
Well, they asked him if he'd take his shirt off during the celebration.
Oh, yeah, that's a tradition.
It is. And he said,
What'd he say?
no, ever.
That sounds like Ohtani, always a class act.
He is. And speaking of class acts,
Mm-hmm.
there was a really nice tribute to Fernando Valenzuela on his birthday.
Oh, that's right.
Edward James Olmos led the crowd in singing Happy Birthday.
Wow.
It was a great moment.
Yeah.
Everyone was remembering Fernando Mania
That's awesome.
and thinking about Valenzuela's impact on the team and the city.
So from the parade to Dodger Stadium, it sounds like a true celebration.
The city really came together to celebrate their champions.
Those shared moments of joy are really special.
They are. They remind us how powerful sports can be.
Yeah, bringing people together.
Exactly. Transcending differences and creating a feeling of belonging.
Okay, well, from celebrations, let's move to something that affects everyone.
Okay.
The ACA Marketplace
Yeah.
open enrollment started for 2025.
Right.
And it's especially important this year because of a possible Trump reelection.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Because if Trump wins and keeps his promise to repeal the ACA,
Mm-hmm.
it could have huge consequences for millions of Americans.
So many people depend on the ACA for affordable health care.
Yeah.
The idea of losing those protections is scary.
Especially for those with pre-existing conditions.
Exactly. It really highlights what's at stake in this election
Yeah.
and how policies directly impact people's lives.
So how many people could lose their health insurance?
We're looking at around 40 million Americans potentially.
Wow.
And we could go back to when insurers could deny coverage
Right.
or charge crazy premiums based on pre-existing conditions.
I know someone who finally got affordable coverage for their chronic illness because of the ACA.
Yeah.
The thought of them losing that coverage is heartbreaking.
It is. But on a brighter note,
Mm-hmm.
enrollment numbers have been increasing nationwide.
They have. What's driving that trend?
We've seen huge increases in states like Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin,
Okay.
Georgia, Maryland, and Virginia.
Wow.
It's partly due to better access and outreach efforts,
Mm-hmm.
but also because people are understanding the benefits of the ACA,
Okay.
especially those who've lost employer-sponsored coverage
Right.
or are dealing with rising healthcare costs.
So the ACA has become a lifeline for a lot of people.
It has, and it's great to see more people using it.
What are the big changes for this year's enrollment?
Okay, well, there are more plan options.
Mm-hmm.
More insurers are participating, giving people more choices.
That's good, but what about the premiums?
Okay, so there are premium increases for silver and bronze plans. But those increases are capped by the enhanced subsidies.
From the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right, which makes the plans affordable for most people.
So with these subsidies, people can still find affordable plans.
Yeah, a lot of people are finding plans for under $10 a month.
Wow, that's amazing.
There are also new developments,
Okay.
like DACA recipients being eligible, and some states are working to reduce deductibles.
Good.
And there's stronger protection against fraud
Okay.
and stricter standards for those non-ACA compliant plans.
The ones that sometimes mislead people.
Exactly.
But I remember hearing that those enhanced subsidies might expire at the end of 2025.
Yeah, that's a big concern.
What happens then?
That's the question. If Congress doesn't renew those subsidies, millions could see their premiums go way up in 2026.
That's scary.
Yeah, some estimates say costs could double.
For some families.
Yeah, for some individuals and families.
So healthcare access is really tied to political decisions.
It is, and those decisions has a huge impact.
Okay, well, let's move on to a different issue.
Sure. Water contamination in California.
Big problem.
This is where those personal stories really hit home.
Yeah.
We heard about Cynthia Ruiz from East Arosi. That's a town in the Central Valley
Right.
where the water is so contaminated.
Yeah.
They have to truck in drinking water twice a month.
Wow.
Can you imagine not being able to safely drink your own tap water?
It's a tough reality for a lot of Californians.
Yeah.
As of late October, about 750,000 people don't have access to safe drinking water
Wow.
because of these failing water systems.
And these systems are often in remote areas, right?
They are, or in sparsely populated areas, making them harder to fix.
And how much will it cost to fix all of them?
The estimate is a whopping $11.5 billion.
$11.5 billion. That's a huge number.
It is.
So how does Proposition 4 factor into this?
Right, so that's the $10 billion climate bond.
On the November ballot.
Yeah, it would allocate $610 million to improving water quality.
That's a decent amount of money
It is. It would be used for grants and loans.
to help local governments fix those contaminated systems.
So it's not the whole $11.5 billion, but it's a step in the right direction.
It is.
But I imagine there are people who are against this bond.
Oh, yeah, there are.
What are their concerns?
Well, supporters see this as a crucial investment
Okay.
in public health and environmental justice,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those communities hit hardest by contamination.
The ones that are already vulnerable.
Exactly. They argue that everyone deserves clean and safe water.
It is a basic human right.
It is. And that we need to invest in solutions now to protect future generations.
And what about the opponents of the bond?
Well, they criticize the use of bonds to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Groups like the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Okay.
They say it's more cost-effective to allocate funds from the state budget.
Okay, so they don't like the idea of adding to the state's debt?
Exactly. They worry about the burden on taxpayers.
That makes sense.
They believe there are more efficient and responsible ways.
To handle the problem?
Yeah, to address the water contamination crisis.
Okay, so it's a complex issue with valid arguments on both sides.
It is, and the Legislative Analyst's Office estimates
Okay.
it would cost about $400 million per year
For how long?
for 40 years to repay the bond.
Wow.
So that's $16 billion over time.
That's a lot of money.
To put it in perspective,
Yeah.
that's about $100 per Californian each year for the next 4 decades.
So it's a big decision with long-term consequences.
It is.
But one thing's for sure, clean, safe water is essential.
Absolutely.
And we can't ignore this crisis.
We can't.
Yeah.
And as climate change gets worse,
Right.
the need for sustainable water systems will only get more urgent.
We're facing a perfect storm of problems.
Yeah, a lot of hazards that could threaten water access.
For even more Californians.
Exactly.
So it really shows how connected all these issues are
It does.
and how important it is to make smart decisions.
Yeah. Decisions that put the health and well-being of Californians first.
Okay, well, before we jump into part 2 of our deep dive.
Let's take a moment to recap what we've talked about so far.
Okay. Welcome back to our deep dive into this week's news.
It's amazing how these stories all connect to these bigger questions.
Yeah, like power and legacy and celebration.
And those community challenges we talked about.
It really makes you think about what's shaping our lives
Absolutely.
and the choices we have to make.
Yeah, let's go back to those election results for a second.
Okay.
What stood out to you about those black candidates?
Well, the impact on the California Legislative Black Caucus is interesting.
Okay.
It's not just about the number of members.
Yeah.
It's about the different experiences they bring. Like Latifah Simon, who's likely to replace Barbara Lee in Congress.
Right.
She's got a strong background in criminal justice reform.
Yeah, that's a voice that could really shape things.
For sure. And we can't forget Sydney Kamlager.
Yeah, she's held her congressional seat.
She has.
I remember reading about her work on housing affordability.
Oh, yeah. And tenant rights. Those are huge issues in California, especially in her district.
Yeah, for sure. Each candidate has their own strengths and focuses.
And with this potential shift to a female majority in the CLBC,
Right.
there might be more attention on things like childcare
Right.
and maternal health and equal pay.
Yeah. It's exciting to think about what could happen.
It really is. What about the outgoing assembly members?
Oh, like Reginald Jones Sawyer, Kevin McCarty, and Chris Holden.
Yeah. What do you think is next for them?
Well, they've all served the public well,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure they'll keep making a difference.
Maybe run for other offices?
Maybe, or maybe they'll go into advocacy or nonprofit work.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, how their time in the assembly shapes their next steps.
It reminds us that politics is always changing.
Always.
Speaking of change, let's talk about Quincy Jones.
Okay.
His career was so long and covered so many genres.
I know, it's hard to pick just one thing.
If you had to choose one thing that defines his legacy,
Oh, that's tough.
what would it be?
I'd say his ability to bridge those musical and cultural gaps.
What do you mean?
He was fluent in so many genres.
Right.
Jazz, blues, pop, hip-hop. He moved between them so easily.
And collaborated with all kinds of people.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to push boundaries or experiment.
So he really challenged what popular music was.
He did think about the sound of Thriller.
That's a good example.
It was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It mixed pop, rock, funk, even disco,
Wow.
creating this sound that was both familiar and totally new.
And it's still the best-selling album of all time.
It is, which says a lot about his talent as a producer.
Yeah, he took Michael Jackson's talent and made it extraordinary.
Exactly. He had this ability to find the perfect sound,
Yeah.
the perfect groove, the perfect arrangement.
Connect with people all over the world.
Exactly.
And he did all this while breaking racial barriers.
Yeah, in a really tough industry.
That's right.
In 1964, he became the first black vice president at Mercury Records.
Wow.
That was huge back then.
Yeah, segregation was still a major problem.
He faced so much discrimination.
But he didn't give up. He paved the way for so many black artists and executives.
He was a trailblazer.
He was both musically and culturally.
Yeah, his story is really inspiring.
It is. Especially when you think about the times back then.
Yeah, it shows that one person can make a difference.
They can when they refuse to be limited by expectations.
And stereotypes.
Quincy Jones's story is about talent and determination.
And using your platform to help others.
Absolutely.
It's amazing that he was still working just a few years ago
I know, right?
with The Weeknd on that Dawn FM album.
He never stopped learning.
Never stopped evolving.
Even in his later years, he was open to new sounds.
And collaborating with younger artists.
That's what makes a true master,
Someone who understands that creativity doesn't have an age limit.
and that there's always something new to discover.
It's like that Oprah Winfrey quote about him.
Which one?
He always is soaring ahead and doesn't like to look backwards.
That's perfect. It really captures his spirit.
Quincy Jones was a force of nature.
A visionary who shaped music for generations.
We'll feel his loss, but his legacy will live on.
Okay, let's shift gears to the Dodgers.
Sounds good.
It must have been incredible to see that victory parade.
Oh, it was pure joy. Everyone was so excited.
Yeah,
The fans were everywhere,
all decked out in Dodger blue.
cheering, waving flags, enjoying every minute.
Those are the moments that remind you
But what?
how powerful sports can be,
Yeah.
bringing people together, creating that sense of community.
And pride, absolutely.
I loved that quote from Austin Barnes.
Oh, yeah. The one about the championships.
Yeah, who has more championships in the 2020s than us? Absolutely nobody.
So confident.
I know, right?
He's not wrong, though,
The Dodgers have been dominant,
for years.
and this win just solidifies their place at the top.
It does. And it's not just about winning.
Right.
It's about how they win.
They play with so much heart.
And passion.
They always seem to find a way to come back.
Like in Game 5,
Yeah, they were trailing by 5 runs at one point.
that's what makes them exciting to watch.
They never give up.
Never. They always believe in themselves.
It's their talent, their
Right.
resilience,
And Dave Roberts' leadership.
and they know how to celebrate.
Oh, yeah, for
I
sure.
loved that story about Kike Hernandez.
Oh, yeah. Poking fun at Fat Joe's performance.
He used to be fat, But he's not fat anymore. After that performance, we'd already won.
Classic geek.
I bet the Yankees fans will have something to say about it next season.
Oh, I'm sure they will. It's all part of the fun.
What about Shohei Ohtani?
Oh, yeah. They asked him if he'd take his shirt off.
During the celebration.
Yeah, he said no, never.
I love it. He's not one to seek the spotlight.
Not at all. Even after a huge win like that.
He's just focused on the game.
And helping the team succeed.
That's what makes him such a special player.
He's a true two-way star.
Pitching and hitting.
It's rare to find someone that good at both.
It's amazing, and I'm glad they acknowledged Fernando Valenzuela.
Yeah, on his birthday.
He's a legend here in L.A.
He is. It was a great tribute to him.
He brought so many fans to Dodger baseball.
And his legacy is still inspiring people.
Even while celebrating a new win,
Yeah.
it's important to remember those who came before.
It is. It's all part of baseball history.
Okay, well, let's move on to something more serious.
Okay.
The ACA marketplace,
Right.
open enrollment is happening, and there's a lot at stake.
Especially with the ACA's future uncertain.
This is important for so many Americans.
It is.
Access to affordable health care is crucial.
It's a basic need.
And the ACA has helped so many people
So many, especially those with pre-existing conditions.
who used to be denied coverage.
It's true.
So you're right, the ACA has been a lifesaver.
It has.
But its future is uncertain, especially if Trump wins.
And if he follows through on his promise to repeal it,
That thought keeps a lot of people up at night.
I bet.
Can you remind us what could happen if the ACA is repealed?
It could be really bad.
Okay.
We could see a huge increase in uninsured Americans.
Like how many?
Maybe 40 million people.
That many.
Yeah. And we could go back to those days.
When insurance companies could deny coverage,
Or charge outrageous premiums based on pre-existing conditions.
it would be a major step backwards for healthcare.
It would a step back in time.
Yeah, back to when healthcare was a privilege, not a right.
Exactly. And it's not just about individuals losing coverage.
Right.
It's about weakening the entire healthcare system.
So the ACA isn't just about expanding coverage.
No, it's about protecting consumers too.
Okay.
It makes sure people are treated fairly by insurance companies.
That they have access to essential benefits.
And that they're not hit with random premium hikes.
Or denials of care.
Exactly.
It's a complex law, but it's really about making sure everyone has access to health care.
That's the heart of it. Quality, affordable healthcare.
No matter who you are or what your health is like.
Exactly.
It's a step forward for a more just and equitable healthcare system.
It is.
Okay, so with all that in mind,
Mm.
what should people know about open enrollment?
Well, first get covered.
Okay.
Even if you're healthy and think you don't need insurance, you never know what might happen.
Right.
An illness or injury can happen to anyone.
And insurance is a safety net, especially with the ACA's future uncertain.
Exactly.
And those enhanced subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act.
Those are still in effect.
They've made things more affordable for millions.
They have. But they're set to expire at the end of 2025.
So what happens then?
That's the big question.
Will people's premiums go up?
If Congress doesn't extend the subsidies,
Yeah.
we could see millions facing big premium increases.
So coverage could become unaffordable.
It's a possibility.
It shows how healthcare policy is always changing
It does.
and how important it is to stay informed and involved
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to understand how these decisions affect us.
and make our voices heard.
For sure. Now let's talk about access to clean water.
Oh, okay.
We talked about Cynthia Ruiz from East Arosi.
Where they can't drink the water.
Right. They've been dealing with contaminated water for years.
It's a problem for many communities in California. It's hard to imagine not trusting your tap water.
Yeah, it's such a basic necessity.
We need it to be healthy.
We do.
Yeah.
And it's not just about individual health.
Okay.
It's about environmental justice.
What do you mean?
The communities most affected by water contamination
Yeah.
are often low-income communities of color.
Right.
They've historically dealt with more environmental hazards.
So these issues are interconnected.
They are, and we need to find solutions that are fair and just.
So where does Proposition 4 fit in?
All right, so it allocates $610 million.
To improve water quality.
Yeah, which is a big investment.
But not enough to fix all the problems.
No, it falls short of the $11.5 billion needed.
So it's a start, but not a complete solution.
Right.
What kind of projects will the bond money fund?
It'll fund a lot of things.
Okay.
Repairing and upgrading old water systems.
Okay.
Treating contaminated water sources.
Mm-hmm.
Providing safe water to communities relying on unsafe wells.
And it'll invest in drought resilience and water conservation.
It will.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
It is addressing both the immediate crisis
Yeah.
and the long-term challenges.
Of water scarcity and climate change.
Exactly. It's about investing in California's water future.
And ensuring everyone has access to clean, safe, and affordable water.
That's the goal.
But some people are against Proposition 4,
Right.
saying it's too expensive.
Or that the money could be used elsewhere.
Yeah. What are their concerns?
Well, they say it adds to the state's debt,
Okay.
which could have consequences down the line.
Yeah.
They also think the state should focus on other things,
Like
education or healthcare.
those are important things, too.
We have to think about costs and benefits.
Yeah. And make sure we're being responsible with money.
But we also have to remember that clean water is an investment
In public health.
in environmental protection.
In California's future.
Exactly.
So it's about priorities.
It is, and for many, clean water is at the top.
We can't ignore this problem.
We can't... What are some of the causes of this contamination?
Well, it's complicated.
There's no easy answer.
But agricultural runoff is a big factor.
It is. California produces a lot of food,
Yeah.
and all those pesticides, fertilizers, and chemicals,
Right.
they can contaminate the water.
That's why we're hearing so much about sustainable farming.
Exactly. Protecting water goes hand in hand with responsible farming.
What else contributes to the problem?
Well, industrial pollution's another big one.
Okay.
Factories, refineries, all kinds of industrial facilities that
Right.
can release harmful chemicals.
And what about our aging infrastructure?
Oh, yeah, those pipes and sewage systems.
Yeah, we've seen the news reports.
Those problems can definitely lead to contamination.
And climate change makes it worse.
Absolutely. Higher temperatures and unpredictable rainfall,
Lead to more droughts and wildfires.
which can make the water problem even worse.
It's all connected.
It is
And we need to find solutions that address everything.
a multifaceted challenge.
That requires collaboration
Innovation.
and a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
So a lot is riding on Proposition 4.
It's a big investment for a crucial need.
It is, but it's only one part of the solution.
Right. We need to look at solutions from every angle.
Sustainable agriculture,
Regulating pollution
investing in water conservation.
and drought resilience.
It's a call to action for all of us
It is. We all have a role to play.
to protect our water and ensure everyone has access to clean water.
Absolutely. We need to make smart choices
Advocate for change.
and support policies that prioritize clean water.
Okay, before we wrap up this part,
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about one more aspect of the ACA,
Oh,
network adequacy.
right?
I remember hearing about new standards.
Yeah, network adequacy is about the healthcare providers
Okay,
that are available in an insurance plan's network.
so the ACA has new standards to make sure plans have enough providers.
Exactly. So people can get the care they need.
Why are these standards so important?
Well, before these standards,
Hmm?
some plans had really limited networks. People didn't have a lot of choices. They had to wait a long time for appointments
Right.
or travel far to see a doctor.
So these new standards are supposed to make it easier
They are.
to get the care you need.
Exactly.
So how do they actually work?
Well, it depends on the state,
Okay.
but plans have to show they have enough providers.
In each specialty
Yeah, and in each area.
to meet the needs of their members.
Right, and they have to meet time and distance standards.
So people don't have to wait too long or travel too far.
Exactly.
So it's about making sure plans are doing what they promise.
Yeah, and providing real access to care
Holding insurance companies accountable
and making sure people get the care they need.
when and where they need it.
Exactly.
This is another way the ACA protects consumers.
It is, and improves the quality of healthcare.
Healthcare policy isn't just about coverage
It's about making sure that care is timely and accessible.
and meets people's needs.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's take a short break.
That's good.
And when we come back, we'll dive into some more stories from the Observer Group.
Now we're back for our final look at this week's top stories from the Observer Group newspapers.
It's been a journey, hasn't it?
It has. We've covered so much ground.
From elections and Quincy Jones to the Dodgers.
And healthcare and clean water.
It's amazing how these stories all connect.
See, do they show the challenges and triumphs we face?
As a society.
Yeah, they remind us we're all in this together.
Before we move on from the ACA,
Okay.
let's talk about the positive things that have happened.
Yeah. What benefits have people seen because of the Affordable Care Act?
Well, millions of Americans have gotten coverage.
That's right. People who didn't have insurance before.
It's led to better access to health care
And better health outcomes.
and less financial strain for so many people.
Exactly.
It's a huge relief to know you can't be denied coverage
Or charged more.
just because of a pre-existing condition.
Right. It's a big change in how we think about healthcare.
So the ACA has made things fairer,
Everyone has access to essential healthcare.
no matter their health.
That's right.
And it's not just about individuals.
Right. The ACA is about improving the whole system
How so?
by expanding coverage and encouraging preventive care.
Okay.
The ACA has actually helped lower costs
Really?
and improve the quality of care for everyone.
So everyone benefits.
It's a win-win.
But we've talked about the uncertainty surrounding the ACA.
We have.
What can people do to support affordable health care?
You can contact your elected officials.
Okay.
Let them know you support the ACA.
Yeah.
You can join advocacy groups
That are working to protect the law.
and expand access to care.
Stay informed about healthcare policy.
And vote for candidates who share your values.
Those are all great ideas.
We can make a difference.
Okay, let's go back to California's water problems.
Okay.
We talked about Proposition 4 and the funding, but what's causing this contamination in the first place?
Well, there are a few things.
Yeah.
Agricultural runoff is a big one.
Okay, California is a big agricultural state.
We produce a lot of food.
And all those pesticides and fertilizers.
Yeah, they end up in the water.
So our food choices affect our water.
They do. We need sustainable farming practices.
Protect the environment.
And our communities.
What else is causing problems?
Industrial pollution.
Okay, from factories and refineries?
Those facilities release harmful chemicals.
Right into the water.
Yeah. And then there's aging infrastructure.
Like those leaky pipes.
Yeah. And sewage system.
Those can contaminate the water too.
Absolutely. And climate change is a factor.
Yeah, with rising temperatures and weird rainfall.
We're seeing more droughts and wildfires.
Which can make contamination worse.
Exactly.
So it's all connected.
It is. We need a multi-pronged approach.
To find solutions.
Modernizing infrastructure.
Sustainable farming.
Stronger pollution regulations.
And fighting climate change.
It's a lot.
It's a call to action.
It is. We all have to do our part.
So what can people do to protect our water?
Be mindful of your water use.
Oh.
Fix leaks. Use efficient appliances. Water your lawn wisely.
Simple things.
They make a difference.
Support businesses that care about the environment.
And advocate for water conservation policies.
It's about making choices that matter.
And holding our leaders accountable.
This has been an amazing discussion.
It has. We've covered so much.
From local elections to global issues.
Healthcare, clean water.
It's been eye-opening.
I hope our listeners are feeling curious.
And inspired to stay informed.
And engage.
Remember, you can read more in the Observer Group newspapers.
And for more on the ACA, go to healthcare.gov.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay